Greetings again. This is AGRC 210, Unit 7 coming at you, where we will be talking about closing the sale and kind of focusing on how we finish up, how we get to the end line where we get that handshake and the order. And so let's get to our content. This is going to be, again, a two-segmented video lecture series. So when we close the sale, a few things that I want to position to you. Number one, does it mean when you close that always a purchase is made? And I'm going to leave you hanging a little bit with this thought to have you give an example of when you close a sale, but no money changes hands or no order necessarily is given. I want you to think about that carefully here for a little bit. Closing occurs when a customer agrees to work with you or commits to the idea that you've presented. You've closed the sale or closed the leadership pitch at that point in time. You've gotten them to take some kind of action. Two rules that I would suggest are important in closing. It's asking for commitment from the customer, and every call should have a close. Whether that means a transaction occurred or not doesn't really matter. Every call that you make with a customer or with a team should have some kind of close to it. And then create a win-win situation. And we've talked on and off throughout the semester and weaved a few things from Stephen Covey in here, and this is one of his 7 keys, is create a win-win situation. You want the client, the customer, the prospect, the leadership team that you're working with, you want them to succeed or you wouldn't be working with them. You also have a stake in it as well, of course, in creating that win for yourself. So create that win-win situation the best that you can. So why does it seem so difficult? Oftentimes, and if you've not experienced this in one of your sales projects, you will, is nerves all of a sudden will pop up right at the time where you have to ask for the order, because that's the point of acceptance or rejection. And so that's where the anxiety starts to pop up. Your palms get a little bit sweaty. You get that fluttering in your stomach. Unless you're 100% confident that they're going to say yes or going to say no, that's the point where you start to get a little bit nervous. So you should get some kind of commitment on every sales call. And it's important, I suggest here, develop a solution with your customer and not for them. Create the dialogue, not a monologue. And if you skip little closes along the way through the sales process, we've talked about this in a number of different methods and manners throughout the course, but if you skip opportunities to gain agreement from them throughout the sale, the final close is going to be more stressful because you're not going to know really what they're thinking if you've skipped the opportunity to get yeses along the way. So think about doing incremental commitment, asking for commitment to work with you, ask for commitment that it's the right product before you get to ask for commitment for the final sale. Those are all important things. So why does it seem so difficult? So again, if you've done the incremental commitment, the final close should be super easy. They've already said yes a number of times, and you should be aware of that and be ready for it and say, whew, I don't have anything to worry about. I just have to ask for the order. Frankly, the customer is probably going to be surprised if you don't ask. If they've said yes 3 or 4 times and committed to you several times through the selling process, they're going to expect you to ask for the order. Remember, they're looking for a solution too. Otherwise, they would have stopped you long ago. So be ready to ask for the order and be confident that you should ask for the order at the appropriate time. Now, is it a slam dunk? No. They're going to say no. Occasionally, that's going to happen, and probably more often than you'd like. Occasionally, you're going to get that objection, and sometimes it doesn't matter even how well you've done. They all of a sudden pick a lower price solution. They all of a sudden decide that it's just simply not in their budget. They all of a sudden figure out that they couldn't manage it even if they had it in their business. And those type of things just happen. It's not always a mistake, and not every product or service or idea is the right one. So that may just take a little bit of time for them to settle on that it needs to be a no for them. Sometimes it relates to failure to clearly understand things, as we mentioned with objections or preparing your sale plan, like we've gone through already in a number of video lectures and we'll have discussed in class and in activities. And sometimes it's just simply underselling yourself. is you don't present enough confidence for them to have confidence in you. And so even if they do say no, I say try again. Ask for one final commitment, the chance to do something with them again, the chance to come back and talk about a different product, a different service, to revisit them at another point in time. Because, again, you never want to burn that bridge because they might be ready at some point in time down the road. So how do you prepare for the close? And I say, when the customer's ready for it, you say, well, I don't even know what that means, which is common. If you're getting some agreement along the way, you're getting ready to close. If you've gotten agreement to a key feature and benefit, they're getting ready to close. If they start asking for orders with some buying signals here, like I mentioned in the bottom, some verbal buying signals where they ask for pricing or they start talking about your product. If they start telling you how your product's going to work themselves, they're already sold. All you got to do is ask for the order, and you'd be silly not to at that point in time. And be careful not to talk yourself out of an order. If a customer is willing to give you a sale, take it from them. Even if you're not fully complete with what you anticipated should be a longer sales presentation, if they are ready to close, stop talking and close the sale. Don't say, I have 4 or 5 more features and benefits to tell you about, or I didn't finish all the way talking about the specs or the pricing. If they're ready, close on them. That's the point in time. That's like getting a fastball on the tee and choosing not to hit it instead of trying the curveball. Make sure that when you get the opportunity, finish it. They will give it to you if they're ready. If they ask about delivery, they're ready to close. If they start talking about warranty, they've already purchased it in their mind. Same thing with a service plan or training. They're ready to close. Those are all very, very clear buying signals. Be ready to spot them, identify them, and go right to the close. And don't fool around and talk yourself out of a sale. Now, we've talked about personality types in a number of different ways throughout the course. I think it's important to continue to weave that through here. Each of us has a different personality type, and there's a number of different personality profilers. And as we've talked in class, I like the DISC system, the DISC system. A D is probably going to have very few questions. They're going to want to close fast and move on because, remember, they want to be in charge and they want to make all the decisions. And so they aren't going to want to mess around with the close. Once they've decided, and it's time to go. The I is probably going to want to be convinced that you believe it's the correct option for them. They want to have confidence in you personally. And occasionally they're going to want to know that other leaders are also using your solution. That's important to them. S's are probably going to ask to consult somebody else. First off, they don't really want to, they'd prefer not to make the decision, so they're going to ask somebody else. C's are going to want to know every single detail, every spec, every warranty piece, the exact price, what goes into the pricing, exactly when it will be delivered, how exactly it will be installed. They want to know all the details of a C. And frankly, if a C can get out of making the decision also, they would be more than happy to shovel that off onto somebody else. So some things, and I'll try and do these in the video here. The nonverbals are so crucial. So if you get a customer that sits right up and leans right to you like I do to the camera now and really engages you in good eye contact, that's usually a very good sign. If they lean back and push away from the desk, sometimes that means they have an objection or they're not comfortable with something you just said. If they start avoiding eye contact with you, and like if I start to look away from the camera a little bit, and that usually means maybe there's a question or there's something that they don't believe, you're running out of time, things of that nature. If they just start looking past you, that steely stare that's either going right past your ear or right above your head or right through your shoulder, that means you're probably out of time and they're tired again of listening to you. If you're sitting at a desk and they begin to shuffle papers that are sitting on their desk, again, they're signaling to you in a nonverbal fashion that there's something that they're uncomfortable with. There's something about your presentation that they don't understand, that they're frustrated with, that they need more information of, or that you've taken more time than they were willing to give you. Frequent eye contact is always good. Smiles and good facial expression is always good. It makes you feel like that they're into what you're saying. If occasionally you get this rest the chin on the hands thing, either it's nap time or you've talked much longer than they're willing to listen to you. So this signal, and again, I get these in class occasionally and don't think I don't notice them, but this is a signal of I'm checking out, I'm mentally fatigued. So you have to be ready to maybe change the conversation flow at that point in time. Other things, if they fold their hands just like this, this is usually a very contemplative gesture. Same thing with pressing your fingertips together. They're thinking, they may have a question. A fist like this is usually expressing frustration, usually not a good sign. If they open their arms wide, that's usually very accepting. If they cross their arms like this, that's a closed body posture. That means they're kind of rejecting some of the things. If they start rubbing their hands together, sometimes they're doing math in their head, or they're really trying to grind out something, weigh it in their mind, so to speak. If they pick up some of your materials, if you've delivered a brochure or some research information, they start to study it very carefully. That's usually quite a good sign. Putting the finger to the lips is something that people do very subconsciously, don't even know that they're doing it, but they're telling you that they have a question most of the time. It's time for you to be quiet because they have a question. If they pick up their phone or a calculator and start running numbers, great sign. They're starting to figure out how they can afford it. If you happen to have a price order or a price book or an order book, and they start to study that, again, another very good nonverbal buying clues. Frankly, folks, customers will give you these things long before the verbal things come. If you're really watching the face, the hands, the body posture, the expressions that come with it, they're going to give you the buying clues well before you hear anything verbal come from them. And if you aren't paying attention to them, you will miss some pretty good information non-verbally coming your way. So really study these last two slides and really think about how a person subconsciously can even control some of these things on occasion, and how you can use it to read the customer and understand what they're thinking a little bit. So I'm going to pause there and call that episode 1 here, and we'll come back with some techniques to close the sale in episode 2. We'll look forward to chatting with you again.